I developed kind of this mindset when I was at Niagara University that no job is too small, therefore no dream is too big. So a lot of basketball players, issues could probably be tracked back to the foot in a lot of ways when it comes down to like patellar tendonitis or potentially some Achilles tendonitis, or tendinopathies. So I think addressing the foot is really important.
Welcome to the Winning Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Mitch Schwartzman. I'm a family man, a coach, a wannabe athlete. After earning 3 master's degrees and countless certifications, I've decided that podcasting is how I'm going to continue my education in all things wellness, longevity, and performance. Join me to learn along. You spend the summer in Austin.
In San Antonio.
And San Antonio.
Yep.
And that's assisting the NBA?
Yep. Yeah. So we have two-way players. So they're guys that are on the NBA roster as well as the G League roster. And so they're typically my primary responsibility. Then we have some E10 guys. So they're exhibit 10s that are also going to be on the Austin team, and they'll come out here and train as well too. So my primary responsibility is to work with them and then just kind of be a fly on the wall and just learn from these other strength coaches who've done it for a lot longer than me. Then they give me some freedom sometimes. Like today, I got to run part of our warm-up station drill and stuff like that. We do a lot of continuing ed. We just had a meeting today on different microcycle stuff. So I'm pretty much a sponge out here, and I get to work with my two-way guys that I'll see back in Austin, some of the E10s, once I get back into Austin for the season.
Nice. That sounds awesome.
It's really cool.
Did you? I forget kind of exactly how it all went down. Did you get a master's degree along the way? I think you did.
Yep. And so you were one of my mentors for the internship program that I got into once I did the master's program.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was. I recall now. I recall.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
So you're chilling then, huh? Yeah. And then summer in San Antonio with the NBA guys and the staff. Who are your staff strength coaches right now?
Anthony Falcone. So he's been coaching for a while. Really good dude, and likes to make fun of me on a daily basis in a great way, like my hair and all this stuff.
Yes.
Good. But I learned a lot from him. And then we have Carlos Sosa, a Spanish guy, very, very smart, has been also doing the job for a long time. We have G. So G's Victor's trainer. He's out here. And we have a new sports scientist. His name is also Victor and is also from France, ironically enough. And then we have Paige and myself. Paige is more the sports scientist, assisting sports scientist here in San Antonio. And then obviously my position I explained is more so G League, and then just come out here for the summers to soak everything up. And then Chavi's our head of, he's like our director of performance. So he's head of like medical and everything else. And then we have a whole medical staff that has, I think, almost 10 people or 12 people now or something like that.
Yeah. Who's your sports scientist? What's that branch look like?
Yeah, so he just got in. We have his name's Victor, again, also from France, and he's pretty much the head of everything, and then Paige assists with it. And then I get to also assist with our GPS stuff that we do in Austin, because G League players, they get to wear the GPS units. We use Catapult. They get to wear it for games. So we have it for every practice, every game. I'm essentially just collecting all this data, shoveling it out to him, and then he's giving me input and, giving me ideas of ways to look at the data, try to interpret it, and then make it meaningful and apply certain things when it's appropriate. And then we also have forces out there and things like that. We have a bunch of different fancy tech things going on at this facility in San Antonio that I have access to just during the summer. So I get to test guys on different force frames. We have Nord boards, different treadmill testing, a lot of different techie fancy stuff that they know more about that I'm still learning about. But I get to put our guys through our 2-ways and our E10s and try to get something from the data and help with training.
That's great. That sounds like a solid spot. And then
Not bad.
And then can you talk me through the non-summer months? You're in Austin with G League. And what does that look like?
Yeah, so then I'm
Or
pretty much the head of strength conditioning in Austin. So it's primarily just me. And then we have two other medical people. We have a head athletic trainer and an assistant. And so I'm kind of running the show. We have typically like 13 to I think 16 guys on roster in Austin. So it's almost more of like a college setup where I'm responsible for all 16. Where out here we have more coaches and we have pod groups and things like that. And so yeah, my responsibility there is just taking care of all of our guys on roster, leading the strength conditioning. I help with some nutrition. Obviously the GPS stuff, if we can get them on force plates or when we ever come back here and visit in San Antonio, I'll make sure to test them then as well. And just kind of fill in, see a need, fill a need sort of thing.
and then is that September through May or something, or what does it look like?
Yeah. We're about to head out. So probably like mid-October. And then from mid-October, hopefully make a good run into the playoffs. So you're looking April, deep April, hopefully if things go well.
How the what's your facility like with G League?
The G League, yeah. So that one we are a bit more creative with. I think we get to work out at HCI, so it's a public gym essentially. And we have a court time that we block off for our court times, and then we get to work out of this private gym called AIM inside that same building. And we know the owner, fairly well. He's a great guy. And so I get to train the guys privately in the weight room there, and then they have their court time, which is essentially around like there's pickleball courts, there's like a soccer field in there and stuff. And that's what our day to day looks like. Then we have our own arena. We practice, or excuse me, play out of the HEB arena. So that's where I believe it's the Dallas Stars AHL team. They play out of there as well. So it's a decent sized arena that we get to have to ourselves and have fans come out and stuff, watch games. And then obviously when we're on the road or we're at visiting teams arena. But the day to day is typically practicing is at HCI.
Nice. Um, Walk me through your timeline. Was the Lindenwood internship your first internship, or what did you do before that? What did you do after that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my first internship was at this awesome gym called Emerge Fitness Training, just in St. Charles, Missouri,
Yeah,
over there. And
yeah.
so I got to intern there, and I met one of my first mentors, Dave. Kind of took me under his wing, and after my internship finished up, he gave me an opportunity to try to work with some of these smaller groups, and I got to work with Emerge Everyone, which is nonprofit that works with special needs populations, and they train like once a week as a group, and I got to help coach that. That was like my first coaching gig. And then I was able to work at the front desk there, sweep some floors, kind of just pave my way a little bit. From there, I got a job at Athletic Republic, and then that was in downtown St. Louis. Worked there for a little bit, and then I got an opportunity with Dave again because Dave got a job at Exos, Mercy Sports Performance Exos, in that facility in the Centene Ice Center. Got to work out there with Dave for a little while, and that just so happened to be under the same roof as the St. Louis Blues. And so I think they were looking for an intern at that time. For whatever reason, my name got brought up. I think Dr. Sunderland was a big part of trying to segue that. And then Brett Kelly, our GM, and I believe he's still the general manager there at Mercy Sports
What's up?
Performance Exos. Yeah, still trying to segue that. And I got an opportunity to be an intern then for the St. Louis Blues and got to learn a lot throughout that year. And then I was able to get paid and they were able to call me the strength condition assistant. I don't know if you watched the Office, but I wasn't like the assistant strength coach. I was the assistant to the strength coach sort of thing.
Yeah.
Deal with it. And that's where you have an assistant regional manager. Yes, it is. Assistant to the regional manager. Same thing. No, it's not. It's lower. So.
Nice.
But,
yeah. Love
yes.
The Office. Yeah.
Yeah. So Ryan Padel's, he's the director of performance out there. Super cool guy. Taught me a lot, gave me a lot of responsibility that I was very fortunate to experience and just be in that environment. From there, I got a call from Greg Paulus to be the head of strength conditioning at Niagara University, smaller Division I, just outside of Buffalo, New York, by the Falls. Got to work out there for a year with a great staff. I got to work with Jada Pierce. She was on the women's side, so I worked men's and women's basketball. Again, like great people out there, great experience, and I was excited to get back to hoops. Professional hockey was insane. It was so foreign to me, and I learned so much on a day to day. But I think I kind of missed my basketball roots. So once I got that call, I was really excited to be able to go into, college basketball for a year. And then after that year, I got a call here for the Spurs. And yeah, Ryan Curtis was the one that decided to bring me on, and they haven't kicked me out the door yet. So it looks like we're going into year 2, and see, hopefully the goal this year is to, now being in a place for a second season is taking everything that I learned from year 1 and being able to improve and implement these new ideas for this next season. And yeah, so I'm excited to be here.
That's awesome, man. I know you always crushed it when you were in the weight room with us over at Linwood, and none of this surprises me, but it is nice to hear that hard work pays off and that people are given opportunities and things like that. So yeah, that's great. Great. Thanks for sharing. Can you tell us more about some of the tech that you guys maybe utilize? You mentioned force plates. If you want to talk on that for a moment, maybe what system you guys use to make interventions. You can go into that, maybe a little bit of GPS, just for a few minutes. No long-term lectures needed.
Yeah. So I think we do a pretty good job. I mean, I should say we, but our sports science department here does an excellent job of giving us opportunities to collect data and then trying to figure out, what does this mean? Do we make changes? I think that's kind of the divide that we kind of find sports science in right now, is that we have so many new ways to collect data and have athlete monitoring systems be able to get a better idea of what's going on under the hood, or, things of that nature. But then it's like, all right, now what are we going to do after we have this information? So I think we're in a really good spot right now of trying to make the data meaningful and then potentially make changes or not based on this data. And so simple example would be, we use GPS data. So we look at, the player loads, we look at different acceleration loads, very high speed distance, sprint distance, things like that, to monitor to see if they're within open gym range to training camp range to then in season and game ranges and things like that. From there, then we can also throw them on the force plates and then look at CNS, because we could look at, okay, you have a total acceleration load of 700 today. Consider that's maybe high or something. Does that affect you when it comes to a counter movement jump? Does it affect whether it's bilateral or unilateral? Or then we start looking at RSI, reactive strength index, and looking at a hop test. Then we can go over and look at, okay, well, how are the hamstrings doing? We could go NordBoard, look at AB80 on the force frame, and do different things to try to get different lenses on these athletes. And then again, make decisions and try to, again, be as in touch and close with these athletes to make the proper decisions. Essentially, I think that's what sports science is in place to do, is to give us information and then give us an opportunity to try to make changes or not. And this organization does an excellent job of that. It is not my specialty, but I'm learning a ton literally every single day from people who've done it a lot longer, who just have really good insight. And I get to ask questions. I'm very inquisitive, so I love to ask questions and try to figure out answers to things. And I have a room full of people who have a lot of really good answers and good ideas to all of this data, and then trying to make changes or not.
Yeah, so I think it's good to, I think it's what do you call it? It's like it's the dream to be the dumbest guy in the room, to know less than everybody, and to just go and learn on repeat. I mean, that is such an advantage for growth and maturation. But I think there's one thing that you might know more than they do, and that's the VertiMax board.
What?
Please give us a rundown of your time on the VertiMax board.
Oh my gosh, where do we start, Coach?
Yes.
So, for background of my relationship with the VertiMax machine, I essentially went back home one summer. I was playing college basketball. I sat more on the bench than played, so please do not get it mistaken that I was a great basketball player by any means. But I was obsessed with vertical jump training. I have a bit of a track background in college as well. So one summer, I literally jumped on this VertiMax that my hometown gym had every single day for a summer. Was not the smartest thing to do. I had pulled my hamstring, I had adductor stuff. but I would still get back on there and jump every single day. I had a routine of weights and jumping on this. And throughout the summer, I'd probably added about 5 inches onto my vertical.
That's
And prior to
substantial.
that, it's quite a bit, considering I was at a bit of a plateau for, I would say, at least a couple of years almost, with just not knowing how to train. And not saying I know a bunch now, a grain of salt, but I do think I was able to learn more through the trial and error, and essentially error more so. And I found VertiMax and I got some results, but still didn't really know how to use it. So during that summer, I was working at a small restaurant. It's a Tex-Mex restaurant in my hometown, Brainerd, Minnesota. And so I was there working as a server, and I saved up all of my tip money from that whole summer and ended up getting one of the boards when they were a lot cheaper at that time, but it was still very expensive. And I brought it back to college with me to train my teammates on, and they'd, pay me for it. And that's kind of how I got into training, essentially. And again, really had no idea what I was doing. I was just giving them stuff that I did that had worked for me. And, I was using this fancy apparatus that seemed to get some type of results. I didn't really fully understand it. And then once I was an intern under you, actually, you'd asked me to give a speech about it and kind of my background of why I think I'd gotten results and all this sort of stuff. And then I ended up taking a step further throughout that master's program and ended up trying to do my thesis on it. And so I ended up starting to look into, around this time, you'd push me towards caldits and triphasic training. So I kind of paired the breaking down and segmentation of a dynamic movement to eccentric, the iso or admirization phase for a jump, and then concentric, and trying to apply it then to VertiMax training. And the one thing with VertiMax training that was tough to do, especially from a research standpoint, was trying to figure out the exact resistance that you had on the individual, because I essentially created throughout this mesocycle of training, and the triphasic training was that there was a weight vest group versus the VertiMax group. And so I'd have maybe a 20 or 30 pound weight vest. Well, depending on the hip height of the individual, because there's elastic bands attached to the VertiMax, and that's what you clip onto your waist. Depending on your hip height, the elastic might be more stretched if you're a taller individual. As if you're shorter, there's not as much tension, as much poundage of resistance. So I had to use a fish scale and a regular scale, trying to measure out exactly what the ranges is. So I created a little chart based on, if you had a 38-inch hip height, what was the poundage of resistance on this band for this clip. And I did it for all the clips and all the bands that I was going to use for the research project, which was not very practical, but I was obsessed, and I still am a little bit. And I wanted to know what I was using. So throughout that, I was able to see throughout, it was just a 4-week mesocycle, that both groups did improve, throughout the program from start to finish. During the slow eccentric phase, when we were doing tempo squatting to jumping, the weight vest group they actually seemed to, I believe from what I remember, their jump values were going down, where the VertiMax group seemed to at least stay the same as the initial testing. And throughout this 4-week mesocycle, again, both groups got better, but the VertiMax group seemed to improve more than the weight vest that's just subject to gravity. I have some different theories. I've jumped with elastic resistance on force plates and looked at different metrics and different things that might indicate why that might be the case. I mean, it's accommodating resistance, so it's accommodating the strength curve, right? And being able to try to mimic the same positions that you're going to be in when you go to jump, because you are literally jumping. So I think there's a lot of different potential avenues I could dive down into as to why I think it potentially works so well. I think right now I want to have a world where I could potentially use almost VBT-like monitoring for it. Maybe not necessarily directly for VertiMax, but something that would allow elastic resistance that I can monitor, maybe something similar to like a 1080, and be able to look at, okay, what's the resistance set to? Am I moving at however many meters per second? What's the wattage? And then can I pair that with my lifts? So can I do, if I'm looking at absolute strength, what does that look like for a jump? Do I actually pair that with that or not? If I'm looking at a more of a power day or more of a high velocity day and the meters per second are a lot higher, what ranges could I potentially adjust, like a VertiMax or something to complement those things? So I think a big part of why I think VertiMax ended up working for me was I realized I can't just do VertiMax. I needed to do weights. I needed to do mobility. I needed to also still do unresisted jumping. And then I realized that assisted jumping even can help sometimes more depending on what phase you're in. And just looking at jumping from a holistic perspective and training the body and the organism from a truly springy sense while also still keeping again the strength, and then also the accommodating resistance, the assistance, and then the body weight training as well, and just sprinting and jumping.
Okay. Well,
So I took it. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, coach.
I said I was going to ask you like what you would tell your younger self if you had a time machine to do differently, but you kind of just dug into that. But if you want to like just in case somebody who's listening has a time machine, what would you tell the Jake that was jumping on? He had just bought the VertiMax board, or would you tell him not to get it? What would you say to
No,
kind
I
of
would
optimize
definitely,
training?
great question, coach. I would definitely say still get it. Um, I would say try to train more, maybe charge a little more. I think I was being a little too nice about some of my charges there, but no, they're my teammates and good friends. So I think it was all for the better, and it led to my career now. So definitely would say definitely purchase it, because I'm here today talking to you on this podcast because of it. But I would say less is more sometimes. And I would also say that specificity is very underrated. So I think if my goal is to run fast or jump high, at some point, if I'm not jumping high or running fast, I'm not actually addressing the task at hand. So I think I was doing a lot of things that made sense in theory, but learning how to address the specifics in the exact fashion that I want to, whether it is an eccentric phase where I need to slow down before I can speed up, just from that segmentation, or looking at simple mechanics, or simply taking rests and not doing too much that day and resting up and having higher quality jumping output the following day or the 2 days after, opposed to overloading essentially every single day. But I also probably wouldn't change that because I was able to learn a lot through that. And that's why I know, a lot of the research and things that I was able to dive into gave me better insight, but also I think there's something to be said when you put some sweat into it yourself too, and are able to feel it out and understand a little more yourself, basically.
Yeah. I was also going to ask if the board had paid for itself.
The board, yeah. Well, so funny enough, yeah, pretty much, yeah, it did. So I ended up bringing it out to Niagara after I was out in St. Louis, because I was in St. Louis when I went back to school, as you know, and I brought it out to Niagara and I trained my athletes out there. And it's expensive to ship that thing because it's heavy and it's just awkward. I couldn't. I have a Toyota Corolla actually, so I call it the Corolla Royce Limited Edition. You can patent that if you.
Nice.
I will
Nice.
accept royalties, thank you. But yeah, so I didn't have room in that little car to bring a whole VertiMax with me. So once I got to Niagara and I had shipped it that one time and I got the job with the Spurs, I essentially just donated it to the university and was like, you know what? This is my time to let it go. It served its purpose for me. I'm sure I will have access to one, which I do now. And, I just kind of left it to a university that gave me an opportunity to take the next step. So it definitely paved its way and definitely paid itself off for sure.
Man, that must have been emotional saying goodbye to that thing.
I have no idea. I might have actually cried real tears. I can't exactly remember, but it might have been a little bit. Yeah. I tried to pretend like it wasn't there when I was driving home or something, but that was I mean the training for
yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, that's pivotal. And I could basically anytime I was at Linwood, I usually knew when you were there because I would hear in the background, and I would know what you're training because it would go or it would be if you were doing single high power jumps or if you were just getting in some rep volume work just on repeat.
Yes, sir.
I think you use that more than every other individual combined.
Yeah, probably.
That was I love the idea of you using one tool to just obsess over and get really good at, and then to use this it was like your lens into the whole community, that thing. and I've heard it called handy hammer syndrome,
Yeah.
where they say like when all you have is a hammer, all you see are nails. It's like
Mm.
uh, you've got a bad shoulder, you're not getting your starting position. Let's get on the VertiMax board, like, and as as long as there's a way to use it, we're going to use it. And I bet you got some people kind of giving you a hard time for that. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I looking back at it now, like I'll use it, when it's appropriate for very specific reasons again, for specific individuals and things like that. But yeah, at that time, I mean, that was what I had found success in. So I was like, why can't everyone find success in this? And I got obsessed of trying to make everyone have success with it. And I remember at one point, I think I had like three or was it four guys attached to almost one machine at a time because I was working with the basketball team at the time and trying to get guys to do different things. And buy-in was there, and they tried, so I think they got something out of it. But yeah, absolutely. I think to your point, the age-old saying in our profession is there's a million different ways to skin a cat. But I'm the type of person, I want to find the one most efficient because there's got to be one most efficient. Now, granted, I probably won't find it, but at least if I try to, I
yeah,
could get as close as possible to figuring out what is the most efficient. And what I've learned throughout my career is VertiMax is not always the answer, unfortunately. My younger self would be crying right now, but
yeah,
he would be. But it turns out that that is not always the case. And
yeah.
in special moments, I get to use it now and really try to capitalize on the potential benefits of it and the benefits that we do get to see. But
Nice.
similar to your point, yes, I was very obsessed with one thing, and I've learned to appreciate multiple things and how pretty much anything you can think of, there's some good and bad. So figuring out when it's good and how to use the good and stay away from the bad, I think is kind of the name of our game in the strength game.
I think to relate, I think like West Side Barbell would have been.
Nice.
I think it went from bodybuilding and then almost right into West Side Barbell, and then um, I came out the other end of that. But that was the lens that I viewed everything in. Oh, your soccer team is losing; they don't squat enough. Your football team is losing; they don't bench enough. Like, but you go
Yeah.
through that and you learn a philosophy, and I think man, there's a really good. It might have been Conan O'Brien. Some comedian had a really good way of phrasing it. He said he grew up watching like Steve Martin and these other comedians, and he wanted to be them and he wanted to do what they were doing.
Right.
But he failed to become them, but he became his own best version of himself. And like when when you take things and you try to use that to solve the problem and like really stick with it and try it inside and out and think about it all day long, all sort of stuff, you start to get down the road, you start to get kind of good at it. As long as you can as long as you come out the back end of that and add some other tools to your kit, it's really
Yeah.
nice. It's actually like a great way to spend those first few years because when you start out, you can't learn everything when you're just
No.
beginning. You're lucky to pick one thing, obsess over it, have passion for it, learn that frontwards and backwards, and then later you start to carry that over into other stuff.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. So that was West Side for you. You're saying that was your baby.
yeah, that was like, oh, I was going out to Columbus, Ohio on the regular. Every
Uh,
book and webinar. I mean, I had Louis Simmons in my ear. They were podcasting the YouTube videos. Uh, Louis gave me some gear. I was wearing the shirts.
no.
Like, um, yeah. Um, it was a good time. I don't regret it, but I definitely do not uh I definitely no longer use that to solve problems.
Yeah.
But it was good while it lasted, and then it's now a tool in my back pocket. Yeah,
Yeah. Definitely. I think to your point, it definitely it gave me such a good lens and just learning what post activation potentiation is. I was like, oh, that's that feeling after you're jumping against the bands and you step off, you go jump and you feel light. I was like, I was always wondering what that was. There's an actual word for this. And I just got so excited just even learning that word. I was like, oh, this is real. know, and
Yeah.
does it have to be just applied to VertiMax? No, absolutely not. But that was the lens that I had, and I'm grateful for it, because then it led to all these other things and seeing the value again and doing things outside of just jumping on the VertiMax for hours on end, which I definitely did.
I tell you what, if this strength coach job doesn't work out for you, I want you working for VertiMax.
Man,
I want to
I
see a
would love
VertiMax salesman.
an endorsement, maybe, at this point. I
Yeah.
hope they listen or something. Yeah,
Yeah. We'll have to tag them for sure.
for sure.
Nice. Okay, so you are a bit of a basketball specialist in practice and experience. And I find myself, I've got a couple of basketball teams underneath my wings here. So I was going to kind of pepper you with some questions. What kind of acute injuries are you guys seeing, and what are you doing to prevent those as best as one can?
Yeah, great question. I think you're looking at very springy, very athletic individuals, particularly at my level, but any basketball player, right? Their sport is essentially plyometrics, right? So we look at a lot of knee stuff, patella tendons, and then Achilles. I think the feet are becoming more and more popular. We'll probably get to that at the next question here, but the feet and just the structure of the ankle and simple things when it comes down to how you interact with the ground, and then how that moves up the chain again to the Achilles and the knees and stuff. And, taller individuals looking at their hip mobility and potential hip issues. Hamstrings are big, believe it or not. And so, like, these acute injuries, I think the body has its natural flagging system of, we start to have a flare up of a tendon. We can reverse engineer and look back and say, okay, why is that? Looking at load numbers, looking at force plates, looking at, did they sleep, did they eat, how many minutes did they play? The list goes on and on. And so we look at acute injuries like a flagging system, essentially, and trying to do everything we possibly can to make sure we're staying proactive, not reactive. And then you also have stuff that you can't control, right? So someone steps on someone's foot, they roll their ankle. It's the most common injury in basketball is a rolled ankle, right? So there's some things you have to step away from and just say it's part of the game, and do everything you can. Do you tape their ankles or do you not? And do you do more things to try to address inversion, eversion, positioning, and do you strengthen that position? And do you try to do different types of plyometrics, putting them in these awkward positions? And then do you do that before the court or after the court? Or the list goes on and on with these acute injuries. And we have a really good staff and really smart brains in this facility, like you were talking about. I'm very fortunate to play the dumb guy or the fly on the wall and just ask questions and get some more insight on how to handle all these acute injuries. But you're looking at a lot of knees, ankles, and Achilles for sure. Hamstrings as well too.
Yeah. You kind of made some, like, a special note on the hamstring there. What's going with those tweaking? Are they just opening up on the court and taking awkwardly long steps, or is it
Yeah, that's such a good question. It's interesting because I've learned more on this recently with hamstrings in basketball, because prior to this, I was always kind of under the impression you're looking at people that open up, to your point. Football athletes, whether it's American football or, you got soccer, and then track athletes. So people that are really opening up, striding out. But hamstrings, believe it or not, in basketball, if you play 82 regular season games and you got to get up and down with some pace, your body's going through it in general. So I think a big part of it is maybe just room and looking at the stress and stimulus that these athletes have. And one common thing that we need to always focus on is healthy hamstring, because it seems something that league wide is something that the team wants to make sure they're taking care of and addressing to try to keep their guys on the floor as much as possible.
now? Is that because they are so quad dominant in their jumping actions that the pelvis goes in? Are they dragging that pelvis into a tilted position and the hamstrings are elongated and weak, or what's the theory? Or is it just so much volume, and that they really think that the hamstrings are just getting overworked and not recovering, or what?
I think there's the list is endless essentially, but I think to your point, you look at these individuals and a lot of the anterior tilts, hamstrings being put on stretch, and the amount of load that they handle. Some of it could be just a mechanical thing. A lot of basketball guys don't necessarily know how to run the prettiest. I'm sure you experienced that too.
It's
right. I mean, they are some of the most athletic dudes on the face of the earth. They look so graceful. They'll put their forehead at the rim, but you ask them to go run a 40, and it looks like they're stumbling over their own feet. Not all of them always, but
I just watched
go ahead.
I just watched our team, who is competitive and great young men, and they're fantastic athletes. I was watching them run the other day, and I thought that they were running in a unique way on purpose. They're running, a lot of them were running awkwardly, and I thought it was a running drill.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
and it was just them. It was just those big bodies moving like basketball players do. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just trying to survive for sure.
How about Achilles? How about Achilles trouble? You guys have you been around for some Achilles trouble?
I mean, just basketball in general. Even when I worked in the college setting, you'll have flare-ups, right? That tendon just gets put through a lot. And the arguments are, I mean, it's famous now. Like, you look like in the league, and everyone's talking about, what done, what should be done, and everyone has all these different answers. But I think the real answer is there's a lot of potential reasons why we see these flare-ups, and I've been exposed to it, obviously with the college setting and the pro setting of just, people sometimes have Achilles tendon issues. And I think one thing for us, we do a really good job again of trying to be proactive, not reactive. So doing things from, an isometric strength standpoint, a range of motion standpoint, a spring loading, and an accumulative load standpoint. We really do try to do a good job of making sure that we are doing everything we can to hit the right boxes so something doesn't flare up to an extreme extent or someone ends up rupturing. But it is a hot topic, and I actually would love to hear your input too, Coach. Think and just seeing the fight that we had this past year league wide.
Yeah, I don't have anything. I don't think I have anything basketball wise to add to that. But I ended up working with gymnastics for 4 years, and the way that Achilles injuries work in college athletics is that, oh, okay, they happen here and there, and then men's basketball is kind of outstanding with Achilles tears and strains, but women's gymnastics just overshadows them. They are the mother of Achilles tendon issues. And there's a physical therapist by the name of Dave Tilley, and he was a gymnast, is a gymnastics coach, and is a physical therapist. And he specializes. That's one of his like claims to fame, in a good way, is that he's really on top of Achilles, like load management and looking at what's going on with the Achilles. And it's the same conversation over there. It's not one thing or another. It's multifactorial. It's load management. It's this body posture and mobility at this joint. And that exercise, whether it's like, oh gosh, like a round off double back or something like that, is that they go and they turn around and they get ready to jump up in the air and do two backflips. There's something about that where it's like super high velocity, and they're doing just the right angle, and they're maximizing the force that's going to go through that, because they're about to do like two backflips in the air, or some, if there's a gymnast watching here, they're rolling their eyes out of their head. So there's just, it is multifactorial, but those ladies, that they catch the brunt of it, and they're, another like kind of like side tangent on that is gymnastics is super interesting, because my first year working with them, I went to do like mobility testing on them, derivatives of the FMS test, like the big, like the 7 tests that are really popularized. And I was surprised that all of my gymnasts they're average mobility. Now their spine is
Yep.
probably something special and unique, but the rest of their body, not really that impressive. And the reason being is that they're not yoga low impact athletes. Is they sprint around and they do crazy hard things. And so they go, so that the stability, they need a blend of that mobility and stability and that sliding scale. On the day where they're a little too stable and not mobile enough, that's the day they
Mm-hmm.
probably they pop something, or it's probably that they get better and better at a certain move, and then the body stiffens up,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's over. But studying up and looking at using Dave Tilley as a little bit of a resource, it's kind of able to prep me for when I would go and work with the big volleyball players and the men's basketball players and say, hey, I know you guys are at risk for this, and here's a little bit of a strategy or an approach. And it's, as you know, it's a blend of the stability and the mobility, and then also having their central nervous system right at the right time versus wrong at the wrong time.
Yep.
And man, but yeah, those are tough. Those are tough to be around. Yeah. And then
Yeah, it's such a yep.
you said that overuse, you were kind of alluding to maybe some foot issues. How do you guys approach that?
Yeah, feet stuff, lots of fun. So, basketball players, a lot of them are really tall individuals who probably haven't had shoes that fit their feet throughout potentially their whole lives. So their toes are just crammed into these
Oh
small
man.
toe box shoes, and they're just all jacked up. They don't know how to even use their big toes, or they have basically no toe dexterity. A lot of them have flat feet. So a lot of basketball players, issues could probably be tracked back to the foot in a lot of ways when it comes down to like patellar tendonitis or potentially some Achilles tendonitis, or tendinopathies. So I think addressing the foot is really important. It's something that's becoming a lot more popular now, which I'm super happy about because I believe it's the only thing that typically comes in contact with the ground. And if you can't handle the force from the ground properly, it's going to cause more issues moving up the chain. So yeah, I think that's one thing that this organization does a really good job of educating us on. We had a specialist come out this summer, and I got to learn a lot from him as well as again these other coaches who've been doing this a lot longer than me. But yeah, looking at when does it happen? When do ruptures happen, or when do we go wrong, or where are there issues? And looking at specific degrees and biomechanics to this negative step, this back step motion, and what type of load and stimulus is this actually placing on the athlete? And then do we mimic it? Is mimicking it too much not a good thing? Is it never addressing it also a bad thing? And where do we fall in this continuum? And how is it going to be something that we can quantify and make it individualized? I think is the conversation that I'm continuing to have with these other individuals as well as myself of just trying to figure out, is there a flagging system? Do we look at imaging? Do we look at different load management tactics? When is too much or not enough? And that's where everyone's at. There's no one size fits all answer. I think the answer is continue to keep asking questions and make everything as individualized as possible and continue to try to innovate and solve these issues for what we can. And I think different perspectives is needed because every athlete's different.
So let's say, and yeah, I've seen some basketball players' toes, and
Na-
they are
Nasty,
interesting.
nasty. Love them to death.
Man,
Great dude,
no,
but their toes,
it's
absolutely
got
terrible.
it feels like it should be illegal.
No
Um,
doubt.
okay, so let's say I come in and I'm flat-footed and I've got this, that, and the other. Are you guys making any foot specific interventions? Is there what do you guys got going on? Like let's say uh somebody's convinced that the feet are the problem. Maybe what are some ideas?
Yeah, I mean, some stuff it's like you got to bite the bullet, right? Like I'm not gonna probably structurally change what God blessed you with, but we can give you insoles, right, that are custom fit. We can look at fresh or pressure foot mapping and seeing how you interact when you walk or run and stuff. Like, is your big toe engaged? Do you have the triangle that we're looking for on the balls of the feet and the heel? What does the force look like when we're jumping on force plates? And all these different things. So we can do things to monitor and screen. And then from there, people, again, that are a lot smarter than me start to make more decisions. And I think simple things like paying daily attention to it. So let's say someone needs to do a better job of being more resilient and strong with simple things like calf raises. So we put in their activation, we have them do something with a calf raise or an isometric in that position before the court, and we make sure we implement and put stuff into their lifts. It could be as simple as that, or it could be more like this person needs like a specialist to come in and try to look at different ways to get specific shoes that have a certain amount of stiffness or give, as well as custom made insoles, and then special attention to their feet and different ways to try to get them to be more aware of their foot and working on the dexterity of the toes, body spatial awareness, balance, things like that. Again, our staff is very creative, and it's cool to see these different lenses, and it's based on exactly what these individuals need, not just, again, the cookie cutter. Oh, we have all these Achilles problems, we have all these feet problems. It's catered to the individual specifically, and I think that's why, again, this organization has done such a good job.
Have you come across the name Emily Splickle, Dr. Emily Splickle?
Name sounds very familiar.
She's a podiatrist. She's a foot specialist. And
yeah,
she's fairly present on the interwebs. She puts out some YouTubes. Yeah, she does. She's on social media. She's on YouTube. She has a certification program. I went through her level 1 certification. But it goes in and it makes suggestions for how the foot is supposed to naturally be. And that there's deviations in motion from shoes. Not that she's anti-shoes, she's just like certain specific shoes. And if you're having certain problems, then you try to correct for it. So she wants us to strengthen those feet. So there's like, you might spend some time barefoot. You might be doing toe curls or toe yoga, manipulate. You said some of those guys, they might be able to jump through the air and slam dunk, but they can't access their big toe. And so I imagine she would want to remedy that and bring those feet back to life and rewire those nerves. So she likes toe dexterity. She'll talk about strengthening those arches. And you got some guys with flat feet running around.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Tons.
Yeah.
Tons.
So yeah, maybe not rebuilding that to what we think of as like a healthy, normal looking foot, but strengthening those muscles underneath to bolster it and make it more robust for those. How many games they play? 82, would you say?
82 in the regular season. Then you make playoffs. You got some more games to play. Hopefully,
gotta make playoffs. Yeah. And then there's this book, The Brain That Changes Itself. And I think it's Dr. Norman Doolittle, something like that. But he talks about the way that our nervous system works is that we have neural pathways that are turned on and neural pathways that are turned off. And they take an ape of some kind, let's say it's a chimpanzee, and they sew 2 of the fingers together.
Okay.
And so the ape before the surgery could manipulate those 2 fingers separately. They sew them together for quite a while. They can actually watch the 2 neural pathways become one.
Wow.
And then they go in and they trim the sewing, the sutures, I guess you'd call it. And so the fingers are separate, but now when the ape goes to move it, they move together. So it's kind of like people who can't access their toes. But what happens over time is those apes, that neural pathway divides once again, and then the apes are able to have dexterity again. So it's about neuroplasticity and how just because somebody takes their shoes off and they can't move that toe, as long as their spinal cord and the other things are healthy, they can redevelop that neural pathway. And so it's no, they're not stroke victims, but they're almost like people who are rehabbing their nervous system. So yeah, I'd be interested to maybe if you guys end up playing around with that. She has some products. She believes in them. She also just so happens to make and sell them, but they're like there's like toe spacers and other like foot care products. So I wonder if you ever find anything good in that space. I'd be interested to hear about it.
Definitely. Oh, we got guys with toe spacers. We have toe pros out here. And to your point, the body is so interesting. It will adapt to exactly what you give it. It's just unbelievable to see what can be accomplished or isn't accomplished based on what you feed your body. And to that point, yeah, I think a lot of we call it activation. So it's like warm ups before they get out on the court and stuff. They're based on trying to make this individual an organism as prepped and as ready as possible for basketball by turning on these pathways and having them move properly. It's essentially and then tending care and all these other things. But yeah, I think I've definitely heard the name. So I'd love to check out some more of her stuff. And yeah, I always love to learn for sure.
Yeah, she's great. I think she was also, I believe I knew about her before this because my wife started having some foot pain
Oh, shoot.
in like the summer of 2020 or 2021.
Okay.
And so I dove pretty deep into learning more about this. And you Google toe pain or like base of big toe pain, and you start going down that pathway. And she was
Mhm.
sort of the answer that Google and YouTube spit out to me. I believe after that, maybe after I was even certified through, I think she ended up on like the Mark Bell
Oh, no
podcast.
way.
So
Awesome podcast.
I believe so. I could be totally crossing paths there and misremembering, but yeah, so that might be like a bigger piece of media that people have heard, and I think she was on there.
Nice.
Okay, so let's say somehow for some reason these athletes they've survived VertiMax training, and their feet haven't held them back, and they're actually healthy and they can perform.
Mhm.
Let's say I'm a G League guy, or I have dreams of G League. Performance wise, what are
Mhm.
like some KPIs or what do you focus on? Is it all about the vertical jump conditioning?
Yeah.
What do we need to focus on? Not skill wise. Well, you can
Yeah.
trickle in. I think you can trickle in some skill talk if you want to.
Yeah.
For my purposes, I'm more interested in work capacity and physical attributes. So
Okay. Yeah. To your point, yeah, I'll probably touch on a bit of both with some skill and then just the capacity stuff. We have a really good communication system here where I'm at. So we have meetings on our different pod groups and these athletes that we're responsible for. So we'll meet all in the same room, an athletic trainer, myself, and a basketball coach that's like their home base coach. And we'll talk about what their basketball goals are. And then based on whatever we see in the weight room and medically, and then we all come together and try to prioritize what the individual needs. So maybe one guy's a shorter guy. He needs to be stronger in general. He has a lower center of mass. It's an advantage potentially for him. In a certain way, it's also a disadvantage for him in a certain way. So it's like, where do we meet and what does he need to keep him on the court as much as possible and be as effective and as efficient as possible? Same way where it's like this guy needs to do a better job of being able to slow down. So we need to work more on eccentric, high rate of force development movements in the weight room potentially, and looking at trying to put on the brakes and then put him in different scenarios where he has to make decisions. And then we compare that to the basketball court. And then we can also look at medically, like how are his tendons? What does he look like from a cardiorespiratory standpoint when we do our testing and things like that? So for us here, it is very individualized.
yeah,
And is sometimes based on like whatever their skill is. Like he's a really good shooter. I want to keep him sharp up top. He's very inquisitive. He loves to um, have things that are mentally stimulating. So we'll add in some juggling as part of his activation or his warm up, or we'll
yeah,
throw in some random balance things or try to keep him on his toes at all times, essentially, and again, catering to the individual. When we're talking about I worked in the college setting and I was looking at the main things because all I had was 1 hour with these individuals. And I had the whole team in there at the same time, which was about 13 athletes. And I was trying to figure out different ways to address the main building blocks. So I'm looking at your joints, right? So ankles, knees, hips, and shoulders. And I'm looking at, what can I do to help these athletes have better, more functional ankles from a strength standpoint, from a range of motion standpoint, stability in the knee, mobility in the hips, and again, mobility and stability in the shoulders. So I'm looking at what can I do from a holistic standpoint? Squat, hinge, push, pull. Typically, that's not going to change too much in the weight room. How you dose it and program it and individualize it is kind of the different programming. And then what can we do to try to address things that are going to actually carry over to the court? So in the college setting, I focused a lot on tendon health in general. So I always would do some type of isometric for the ankle and the calf and the Achilles, and I would always do some type of isometric for the knee. Whether they had tendon pain or not, I had them for an hour, and I wanted to make sure everyone got something done from an isometric standpoint. After that, I always focus on simple landing mechanics. So a lot of athletes, again, that we talked about in basketball, they don't know how to run. A lot of them don't know how to land either. And so teaching them how to land in more of a proper, more efficient way, as well as then trying to throw them off and replicate the awkward landings that they might have on the court as well. And trying to give them different opportunities to learn how to handle their own body weight and be able to decelerate and handle all of these eccentric forces and landing forces. From there, I would look at pelvis, hip, trunk, control. You could say core, depending on how you look at it. It's the foundation of pretty much every athlete, right? So when I worked in hockey, the core mattered. Working in basketball, it mattered. It didn't matter whatever athlete I was working with, as long as they had a trunk and a core, it was always important to try to address it. Full 360 core, we're looking at front, sides, and back and trying to do things that are going to help them be more structurally stable from their core, from the center. After that, then I could try to get into more, concentric, more athletic-based movements. So we're looking at then trying to jump. So not just land. After we learn how to land, then we'll start to put stuff together, try to teach you proper jumping mechanics, proper sprinting mechanics, and doing things that are going to then translate your ability to decelerate to then go ahead and accelerate properly. So I would segment things in a lot of different ways. I'd break it down to the simplest thing possible. And then again, I kind of reverse engineer and then say, okay, this is what they need to do on the basketball court, regardless, whether they're a guard, whether they're a big, they all have to be able to run, jump, cut, land, have healthy tendons, and be in shape. So, I think the college setting, it was a bit more cookie cutter because limited time, space, and there was only one of me. Where now in the pro setting, we get to be a lot more individualized, and we have these meetings on these specific individuals and, implement even skill work. Like I'll go out and rebound and help with certain drills, and I'll be a part of certain things that I wouldn't necessarily always be able to, which I was able to at Niagara, but not to the in-depth and individualization that I get to at the professional level. So yeah, depending on the setting, you can cater, to what you have the opportunity to do. Time and resources, right, is always something to take into account. And at the end of the day, I think most basketball players need to have healthy tendons, know how to land, need to know how to jump and run and cut.
Nice. So that makes me want to hire you as a strength coach. But if I'm 16 years old, if I'm 16 years old and I got hoop dreams, how would you, what are just like, what do you think are, because you talked about the shorter guy who needs to get stronger, and you talked about a few, what do you think that 16-year-old that doesn't understand kind of this higher order thinking, is the NBA combine, like we all know that the NFL combine, there's like some things in there that fit and help out. Should the kids train for an NBA combine, or if they're hitting the YMCA weight room and maybe doing some running drills, what would maybe be like a top 5 or something that you would have them focus on?
Man, if I'm 16 years old, I would say play with as many college guys as you can. Play the best conditioning you can do for high intensity basketball is high intensity basketball. I can make you run lines as much as we want, and it can build up a base. But playing high intensity basketball at a higher level than what you're used to is a great way to develop as a 16-year-old. Now, I know that's not necessarily a weight room answer, but if you want to talk about conditioning, you're a 16-year-old high school kid and you're able to get yourself into a college run and play with bigger, stronger, faster guys that are getting up and down a lot more than what you're used to, you'll probably get in a lot better shape. You'll see the game a lot better once you go back to your own demographic and you'll learn how to actually handle this capacity within the environment that you're supposed to be performing in. When that is maybe not always the case, because after a while you get to a certain age and you are the college player now, or you are the pro player. Yeah, I would say, there's different things you could do to build up the capacity and try to get creative with building up the base with running lines or doing shooting drills and stuff like that. But a 16-year-old, I would say play with better players and try to do your best to focus on being the best version of yourself on the court. So if you're a strong shooter, keep focusing on being a strong shooter. If you have a weakness of you need to be a bit stronger or jump higher, those are things to focus on as well. I think the best thing you can do is eliminate any buts. Like if you're trying to get recruited, if you're a kid in high school trying to get a contract, or I suppose in this case nowadays you can get a contract or a scholarship, look at eliminating the buts. So if they say he's a really good athlete, but he can't shoot, get your butt in the gym and make sure you get up your shots and keep up whatever you're doing that's made you such a great athlete. And maybe that's just having great parents, good for you, but get your shots up, so it's still right. So it's still individualized, if you're 16 years old or not. But if you know nothing, I would say build up a solid foundation of strength, slow strength, try to boost testosterone. You're already at that age. You're going to get stronger, faster, probably maybe even grow a little more. Focus on doing it with proper form, take care of your tendons, be proactive, not reactive, and learn proper mechanics, like fundamentals, simplest thing you can possibly do from a weight room perspective. And maybe that's literally just a squat, hinge, push, pull. Maybe that's, you get into some Bulgarians, start doing some unilateral stuff. I think that's great. But I think building up a solid foundation and letting your body naturally mature and then trying to compete against those that are a little more advanced than you, I think is a great start for, most 16-year-olds. And then make it individualized as you start to learn your body and figure out your strengths and weaknesses.
Who are you? You sound thrilled with the staff that you're around there.
Yes.
Do you have any? It could be somebody you're going on a tear on reading their books, or maybe somebody that you're nerding out. You make sure when they speak, you're at that clinic or something like that. Are there any role models or resources that you're kind of charting your programming along with, or like who comes to mind when we talk about people that you're learning from or trying to emulate?
Yeah, to your point, exactly. The people I have in the room now, I'm very spoiled and I get to learn a lot more from. We're doing some more VBT stuff this summer, so I've learned a lot. I've started to use some more just tracking of bar speed and things like that. I do read the NBA puts out, I think they're free to access if you're, I'm pretty sure anyone can access them. I know if you're a member, I'm pretty sure you can always look at the articles, but they put out articles every month that are research that are based on questions that I believe strength coaches put in. So it's like you look at different Achilles articles every month, or tendonitis, or counter movement jump, or eccentric decelerative, blah, blah, blah. So I'll read those every.
What organization was that?
It's through the NBA Strength Conditioning Association.
Okay.
So that one, and then there's the NFL one as well too. And I got put on the mailing list for both. I have a really cool connection there. Ted Lamborghini's absolute awesome last name, Lamborghini's. But I got connected with him some years ago on a phone call, and he just put me on the mailing list before I even got this job. So every month they put out a handful of them. I want to say it's almost like 15 to 20. I'll read those every month. And then again, like I have the best resource you can ask for is coaches who are a lot smarter than myself and that have been doing it for a lot longer. I get to ask them questions every single day. And they all have different approaches. I think is the really cool part about my staff is some are a lot more traditional, foundational strength approached. Some are very creative and body spatial awareness, and some very creative things that I've never even seen before in the weight room. And so I get to just ask them questions. And then I have sports scientists that's like a whole new world now, and I get to learn more about data and stuff. So I get to nerd out on a daily basis, whether it's reading research through those different organizational opportunities that are put out every single month, and then as well as just the people that I have in the room. Those are kind of the main ones. I meant to ask you though, have you read the new triphasic? Because I believe there's a triphasic 2 now.
Oh, I have not.
I
I have
think it's
not.
out. I'm pretty sure. I'm not positive, but that's one that I probably will try to look into relatively soon. I also read the NSCA's The Sports Science textbook. That I read that I think a couple years ago now, but that was one that I'd
Yeah.
recently read from a textbook
Yeah.
standpoint. Those are kind
Yeah.
of my
I've gone through that one as well. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, nice. Cool.
What about you, Coach? What are you doing? What do you learn from?
Well, uh, I'm, I am, I like to, if I can, my interest and my curiosity, it bounces off the wall a little bit too much. So
Mm,
if I have a book out about like jujitsu and a book about nutrition and a book about history and a book about let's say like concussions. If I read all
yep.
those books at a time, I learn a little bit from each book. But what I found, because like I went to college for a lot of years. Um,
Yeah.
I got a few degrees. It wasn't just one degree that held me down for a long time. Um, but when I was in college, you're forced into a high rate of learning and it's structured and you're paying for it or somebody else is
Right.
paying for it, whatever. Um, and taking like when you're a freshman and you're taking like you've got history class followed by English class followed by whatever, that's fun, that's well and good or whatever. But if you condense all your learning into a single space, so what I've tried to stop doing is I tried to stop having the few books on different topics, and I'll read this book on a topic, and then that book on a topic, and then that book on a topic, and I learned so much more in that way that
Mm,
it just speeds up everything. It's better to read those. So that's what I've learned in the last handful of years is that I'm better served by diving into a few books on a topic on repeat. I stay on that topic. Um,
yeah.
that being said, I've basically just finished the over the last couple of years. I think on top of some basic strength conditioning research. I think over the last few years, I spent a few years on longevity. Uh, every book, every
Mm,
podcast, every YouTube video was about anti-aging and about uh, reducing your chances for death or early death. So I spent a few years on that.
mm,
Basically, I gave myself a little degree, like uh, I take my cap and I move the little thing over, and then after that, I went to the other end of the
okay.
spectrum because I've got kids now that are 7 and 5, and I want
Mm,
there's no pressure on them to be professional athletes or even college athletes, but they're really, really lucky to have healthy bodies. Um, and
yeah.
I happen to know one or two things about being healthy and athletics. And so I'm basically now my obsession for the last couple of years. It hasn't stopped, but I've done pretty well for the last couple of years on absorbing and diving into this material as youth athletics.
Yeah.
How do you raise a champion? How do you raise somebody to reach their potential?
Mm,
And that goes from that's physiological, psychological. It's nature versus nurture. You got to learn how to parent and also how to coach and also how to provide these opportunities. So that's something. Um, there's not um, there's not a single resource that's been like life changing, but that's what I've done for the last couple of years is I've just all the books on my mantle have been
mm,
youth related, and I'm reading parenting books and all these other things. And the parenting books relate to coaching, and the coaching books relate to parenting, because
mm,
you
mm.
basically when you become a parent, you basically have young athletes that live in your house, and you're coaching in a very similar way. It's the we already talked about this a little bit earlier. I don't know if that'll make the podcast, but we talked about love languages and we talked about
Yeah.
relationship building and how without going to jail and without crossing lines, some of the same ways that we nurture relationships with our uh, families and even romantic interests, some of those same ways, those same strategies like love
Mhm.
languages, we can use that to connect with athletes. And the same thing with your children and with the young athletes that live in your house. You are finding ways to connect to them. So my kids teach me a crap load about everything. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like my kids teach me more about parenting than any book will. So that might be kind of cliche, but that's how it works. Um, but on top of that, I'm reading books about youth sports and coaching and all these other things. So to rattle off some good ones on that, the Matheny Manifesto is written by Mike Matheny, who's a sort of like a local Cardinals baseball legend. And basically what happens when he gets done with the MLB is he goes and coaches his like 10-year-old baseball team, and he attempts to reinstall discipline in the parents who want to be trophy parents, and they want to specialize and obsess, and they want to turn their 10-year-olds into professional baseball players. And
Mm-hmm.
he's like, the reason that I'm a professional baseball player is that I love the game, and I played a lot of it because I loved it. So
Yeah.
he like puts his foot down,
Mm-hmm.
and he says, we're here to help them love the game and to help them enjoy their time with baseball. And that's how they'll become successful down the road. So the biggest thing there is that it's this enjoyment. And well, to, I'll see if I can cut it short here. I also worked in public schools as a PE teacher, so I was able to get some exposure there. I also worked in private setting with youth. I also worked in as a counselor in a play therapy facility. That's actually a huge part of my philosophy and approach. Is I was working on a counseling master's degree, and I thought that I had a couple of different counseling positions lined up, and they fell
Mm-hmm.
through. But I was already enrolled in like a class, like an interning class. I was like, and I'm like, well, I want to get
Mm-hmm.
this done and over with. So then I emailed like 45 places that were within driving distance.
Nice.
And one of them was a play therapy facility. And I think I said out loud as I was emailing them, I really hope I don't have to go here because I don't want to work with kids. I don't want to hear kids
Mm-hmm.
say like the tough times that they've been through and the trauma they've been through. I don't want to experience. I don't want that on my plate. I just don't think that that's of interest or that I can handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. And it's like really one of those cliche things where you go do it and then you like love it and you're like, oh, this is actually awesome. And play therapy facility. Basically, the theory is that when people are playing and having fun, their guards drop. And so instead of a wall, people come in with walls and we start playing with them. That wall
Mm-hmm.
turns into a bridge. And then they share things with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing like being at the gym with your buddy and he's like, oh my gosh, I just got fired from my job, or like,
Mm-hmm.
I think my girlfriend's cheating on me, or like the people they just open up and like they just tell you things. So um yeah, I just these little kids, they're like comprehensive human beings. You've got to worry about psychology and everything. So, um, yeah, I mentioned Matheny Manifesto. Long-term athletic development is another. It's literally a textbook, but it's fantastic. It's great for looking at a timeline and when you're going to focus on what. Um, so like 5-year-olds probably don't need to like be studying game film. It's probably doesn't hurt them, but they're also probably better off like having fun and like playing
Yeah.
with their friends out in the woods and out in the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just kind of gives you some direction for things like that. And yeah, the list goes on, but that's where the last couple of years has been my main focus. Not my only focus, but my main focus. And then this past year, I took on a new role here at Maryville, and all the work that I'm doing is within my comfort zone, but a lot of it is on the edge of my comfort zone. So the teaching, um, I'm teaching classes that I've never taught before. The material I'm familiar with, I just have to get caught up on it before. However, I don't want to go teach it. I don't want to be unprepared for a class because I was researching something else. So I've been sent back to school basically.
Nice.
And I'm in some classes again. So that's yeah. So learning and research wise, Yeah, I actually, yeah, my youth education is, it's not coming to an end. It's not coming to an end, but it's really where my main focus was for the last couple of years here. When your kids are in diapers, you start thinking about it, but they can't really move that much. So you're like, okay, maybe nutrition is more important. And
Mm.
then as they start talking and maybe they start getting attitudes, you start thinking, well, how do I manage this a little bit more?
Yeah.
And my kids are fantastic. That's
Yeah.
there's not like a problem or anything.
Right.
Um, and then but now they're in like semi-organized sports, and it's you think, hey, they cry when they lose, and they
Mm.
already they already know the difference between winning and losing. And so like
Mm.
and we train at home. Is they get exposure to uh they see mom working out, they see dad working out, and they know that it's cool to have muscles, and they eat their protein, and then they flex their biceps and stuff. So that's kind of been the big focus as of late. Yeah.
That's so cool. I
Yeah.
think to your point, I think a lot of the times we tend to research what we apply to life, I feel like. And that's
Yeah.
cool to your point too. You're talking about how just getting someone in an environment where they feel like they can put their guard down, how powerful that is. And that's something that we try to even do here is just implement little games or just something that's fun and be a person at the end of the day and just have actual conversations with them. And I think it goes a long way, especially when you spend that much time with someone throughout the length of a season and off season and stuff. But yeah, I might have to check out some more of those books and resources you were just talking about. That sounds pretty
Yeah.
cool.
I got uh I'm actually I'm working on like a mega solo podcast right now. So
Really?
I think I'll be able to answer some of your questions. It's now is a good time to ask because I'm fresh off of a lot of that reading, and
Okay.
I'm also downloading my thoughts into like a structured kind of like script slash presentation,
Oh, nice.
just so I can give. And yeah. And I was actually going to ask you, you mentioned something about juggling with one of your athletes earlier.
Hmm.
That's There's scientific rationale behind that. What else do you guys do that's kind of fun or lightens the mood, that tricks
Hmm.
them from that wall into that bridge position?
Yeah, I'm not nearly as good at this as some of the trainers we have here, but I'm saying there's moments where people are learning how to essentially fall and like do cartwheels and just get out of a normal position and understand how to move their freakishly tall bodies and things of that nature and land, as well as then keep things fun or just make things complicated. Different ball handling drills where you have to close your eyes and your heels floating, and then you have to try to catch a tennis ball or something. Just something as erratic and crazy as possible. Throw in a football some days, or do something that's completely different to try to stimulate, but as well as make things fun and creative. But again, to your point, kind of almost not trick, but we're still accomplishing a specific goal that day and a specific stimulus that we're looking for based on their goals, but make it fun, make it creative and innovative. And again, I am not nearly as good at this as some of the trainers we have here, or I should say strength coaches, but I'm learning a lot about it and I'm starting to implement those things with my guys as well too.
Yeah. Yeah, we're trying to make that just a part of our warm up. Not every day is fun, and hopefully no day is like a total circus, but we're
Right.
trying to just have a little bit of fun, whether it's lacrosse ball passing or rock paper scissors or some variation of just basically acting like kids before we get into business. And it changes the atmosphere. It somehow lightens the mood and directs focus at the same time. It's really interesting, and I would not say that it's my strong suit. I say
Mm.
it's becoming a bigger priority, and a lot of my youth training research is the reason why. Is that
Dude,
it's becoming a bigger priority because I just think like, wait, I am boring, and I like to do boring lifts that are just, and I'll do them week in and week out for years. Like that's me. I'm boring. Most of my
mm,
athletes, if they even like the weight room, they definitely don't like doing the same old lift
right.
or whatever, the same warm up every single time. So I've kind of put it on myself to be less of a boring son of a gun, and
Mm,
just make it more engaging. And I've challenged my staff here to do the same, and they come up with some pretty good stuff.
nice.
Yeah, you mentioned, I think you just mentioned something about closed eyes, like a floating heel and closed eyes.
Yeah.
Um, that that Splickle, Emily Splickle that I was talking about earlier,
Hmm.
she um she does a lot of her talking is about how the feet are connected to the vestibular system.
Hmm.
And so closing those eyes changes the game a little bit. Yeah. How much is there any kind of protocol, or do you just see some closed eyes activities here and there?
Um, I know we're going to be doing some testing this year on force plates and stuff like that, which would be kind of cool to see.
Yeah.
Um, and I know even for myself, just closing your eyes, standing on one foot, do that for 30 seconds and see if you can do it. I mean, it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do all the time. I think my balance is just terrible. But on another note, for our individuals, just changing the environment and again, taxing the system, right? Vestibular system, body spatial awareness through proprioceptive stuff, and just looking at different ways to stimulate them based on their needs. And yeah, that's something that I've messed around with a little bit more, but I'm learning a bit more about it as we speak. Like this next week, we actually have a presentation on it. So I'm really curious to kind of hear what that's going to all be as well.
Nice. Send me the Zoom link.
Yeah, I
uh,
got you. Cliff notes, I
uh,
got you for sure.
yeah,
That's
appreciate
what,
it.
yeah.
You know what? I've actually watched a great deal of people balance on one foot with their eyes closed,
Yeah.
because that is, I made a business decision a few years ago. I decided to invest in the TPI screening, certification. So I am a non-golfer. I
Okay.
literally, it's probably hard to find somebody who's played less golf than I am. Um, but I have peers, my buddies, as I'm getting older, they're getting older too. They start getting more into golf. I've got personal training clients that are, when I first got them, they were in their 50s, and now they're close to, or they are 70. And golf
Mhm,
is like one of their go-to things. It's become something they did occasionally, and it's become their favorite thing that they do in the whole world.
mhm.
Um, my brother's into it. So I just have people, but I decided, like, okay, I have these social reasons to do this. Um, but you know who has money is golfers.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to get a golf cert and see if I can get some of their money to become my money.
Hey.
So it was like a little bit of, it was passion, not passion for golf, but passion for people I cared about. Uh,
Mhm.
and also just a business decision is I go
Right.
and I get that certificate. Um, and in that screening process, they have them stand on one foot with their eyes closed. The other knee is held above
Mhm.
90 degrees. Um, and people are pretty terrible at it, actually.
Not easy.
It's it's uh it's almost unbelievable how many young healthy people are bad at it.
I'm terrible
Um,
at it.
and so, but what happens when you close your eyes, though, you start to feel your foot will start to contract and wobble like that. It's like, where did that come from? And it's like, why is that happening? And
Mhm.
so Dr. Splickle, she'll talk about it's foot muscles. It's a combination of
Yep.
what's going on with your vestibular system and also your foot muscles. So if you keep your eyes open and you can do anything,
Right.
but as soon as you close your eyes, your foot wobbles and then you crash out, you get an
Mhm.
indicator that maybe there's some lacking foot strength. And then also they talk about that foot is connected to the glute on that side. And so you
Mhm.
start to get some ideas about, okay, maybe I'm not as strong as I thought I was. And so there's just, as we've talked about, the body's just kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
but closing your eyes, I started doing that in our warm ups a little bit lately.
Nice.
I'll do almost like a freestanding hip cars, which I know is not the same. But and I'll have them close their eyes during it, and it becomes fun and focused, and hopefully not too much of a circus. But
Yeah.
you spread people out so they're not falling on top of each other. But I
Yeah.
mean, you see these great athletes that drop like flies.
No doubt.
Yeah. Okay.
To your point, I don't golf either, coach. I'm terrible. I play a game called Drink an Adult Beverage and Find My Ball.
Yeah, nice.
That's how I play golf.
Nice. My money's on you, and you versus me.
Fair enough.
All right. So where do you think things are going in the future wise, for you, as well as maybe just the industry? You can talk about the industry of pro ball that you're in, or strength conditioning, or just anything. What do you think about this world and where are things headed?
Man, this crazy world we live in.
That's
Who knows
exactly
where
right.
it's heading?
Yes.
You know,
Man.
I would say data collection and a lot more technology being accessible to obviously coaches, players, any type of staff member. So getting familiar with data and sports science, I think, is going to be vital for strength coaches, even basketball staff. You have to be able to speak the lingo to some extent, I think, and it's just going to grow from here. What that means exactly, I'm not exactly sure. But I would say trying to be well versed and understand the fact that we have a lot of great technology at our fingertips, and that's probably going to get used and utilized exponentially over the next handful of years, and just try to be able to make it meaningful. For myself, I would say the main goals I have are based on present things that I can actually control. So I've talked with some of our assistant coaches are really cool here, and I've just had an opportunity to just kind of talk with them about like life stuff too. And I think for me, it's just focusing on my day-to-day morals of just being in this mindset of just do the right thing, and we're all adults at this point, and we have a good understanding of what we believe is right or wrong and what our moral compass is. And as long as I follow that, I think other things will figure itself out. I don't have to be the smartest coach in the room. I don't have to be the best verdict, do whatever, but I can follow my own moral compass and stay true to that every single day and just try to do the right thing for these athletes, for myself, for my family, for my future, whatever it is. And I just do that on a day-to-day. I think stuff will figure itself out and I'll be all right. So I think that's kind of my day-to-day plan. I do have goals, of course, but goals change with, life stuff and different priorities and whatnot. So right now I'm just trying to be the biggest nerd that I can be, or pretend to be nerd, and just learn as much as I can and just follow that compass every day and see kind of where life takes me. But as of right now, that's my tentative goals. I would say, I think taking care of, even my own health on a day-to-day of just waking up in the morning and trying to get my own workout done that day. I think it sets the tone. And then try to read something every single day. Make sure that I ask at least one coach a question, whether it's basketball staff, strength staff, sports science, someone a question that I'm actually curious about learning. And then continue to try to implement these new ideas and this growth every single day with my athletes. And again, just try to do the right thing and maybe not eat too much canes, even though I love the cane sauce and the wings, and try to maybe eat a few more salads and lay off, the adult beverages a little bit and drink a little more water. For me, I think it's honestly day to day, because, the world I get to live in and I'm very blessed to live in is very chaotic, and it requires a lot of attention every single day. So I'm not trying to miss a single day worrying about what's ahead in the future. I'm just trying to make the most of where my feet are at right now.
Yeah. Nice. Let's talk Taekwondo.
Oh no.
Hit me a little bit with your timeline of Taekwondo, and maybe how that influenced you. Was that formative, or what was the deal?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. This is very niche. I forget that you knew about that too. So I appreciate the question, Coach.
Yeah.
Steel vaults up there.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, so I just joined when I was 5 years old. I think my mom threw me into it because I just had so much energy and was a little bit rambunctious. And so I was started at 5 years old, and I learned a lot about just like the cool parts of martial arts that I think are sometimes swept under the carpet outside of like being able to kick and punch and all this stuff. With Taekwondo is the respect and the discipline aspect. And I, funny enough, talked with someone today even about discipline and how important and vital it's been in my life, and being able to just try to stick to certain things that I consider my standard or my job standard or whatever it might be. And Taekwondo was a huge part of that. And, funny enough, I think one of the most intense and intimidating things, even when you're, I was like 10 years old or 11 years old, is like going to know that you're about to fight someone and having to step in a ring and be in literal battle and understand, like, if this goes really wrong, we're 12 years old. Like, if you kick me in the throat, like, it might be donezo for me. So I think being able to survive and thrive in a very intense environment of combative, like a fighting sport, and eventually realizing that's not what I like to do for my life choice. And I'm glad I stepped away and went to basketball and team sport setting. But I am absolutely grateful for all of the respect, discipline, and integrity that I was taught. Master John Ingham. John Ingham is I still think he owns the gym out there in Brainerd, Minnesota, where I'm from. And that man taught me a lot about life and through Taekwondo. And I think that was probably the biggest, coolest thing from it, as well as like, I got to be like, I have a black belt and just kind of flex that a little bit on the side on like the third grade, whatever recess park and try to be tough. But yeah, man, the respect and discipline was the coolest thing for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a huge, I was a huge like wannabe martial artist as a child. That's where all my media, everything was Bruce Lee and Van Damme and Jackie Chan. Those are my like movies I obsessed about when I was really young. And I tried talking parents into getting me into stuff. And I collected a yellow belt from this Taekwondo place and a yellow belt from that karate place, but it never really panned out too much. But I know I've spoken to a few adults who have like childhood black belts in Taekwondo or a similar martial art. And a lot of times I'm like, I feel like that has something to do with the way that you are as a grown up, like 20 years later.
Man, you said it, coach, without a doubt. It definitely had such a big influence on me. And the training was incredibly tough. Like, we went through boot camp weeks and stuff, and I ended up competing in the Junior Olympics. I think it was like 2005, and it was in San Antonio, funny enough. So it was kind of a full circle moment when I got the job.
Let's go.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, I definitely look at it now, my obsession with training and again, the attention to detail and the intensity, it absolutely followed me throughout the other sports I got into and then into adulthood, like you were just getting at.
Yeah, you got to tell the guys that you've competed in San Antonio as well.
Yeah, before they did.
You can't hold that back. You need to hold that over them.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be too. I think I was 8 years old at the time. It's like a little like purple belt or brown belt. I'm not even sure.
Hey, champion's a champion.
Yeah. Hey, I appreciate that, coach. I need that.
Halloween's coming. Halloween's coming up. Maybe you wear a karate gi.
Who knows?
Maybe you slide back into the gi for Halloween.
I don't know. I don't think anyone wants to see that, but that's actually a great idea. I should maybe do that. That's beautiful.
Dude. Oh, please. Yeah. Send pictures.
Yeah. We'll do.
Yeah. So I'm excited. That's, I mean, on top of my own martial arts, like, regrets or like that desire that I had, like that lingers. I've met people I've met people that, oh yeah, they like laugh it off. Like same thing. Like, I have a black belt from like 20 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, I think I'm going to have to put my kids in martial arts. I think that's going to be a part of their childhood. And I have, and,
nice.
And they love it. We found a good guy. He teaches them the kicks and the punches, but he'll also stop and talk about like stranger danger, and he'll do like a little bit of math with them, and he'll do like corny jokes. And he's like, he is who you want as like a instructor for your kids. There's no bad language. There's no toughen up, like whatever. He knows his population. He has cute little kids that he's trying to teach about discipline and these other things. So, yeah. And so they get into it, and yeah, so that's both my kids like that. Like my son was really into it because he's a boy obsessed with Batman, and I talked about Batman has to learn how to do this stuff, and this is how you train for it. And so he goes and he gets into it. And my daughter, she's just watching for a couple times. I'm saying like, oh, if you're not going to do it, we're working on like reading and spelling and this other stuff. And then after like 1 or 2 times of realizing that you're not going to just like pick your nose off to the side, like this is productive time,
Mm-hmm.
she kind of saw what they're just like, oh, they look like they're having fun. So she's like, can I go do it? And she
Mm-hmm.
likes it. She likes it more than he does now.
Oh, wow.
She's really into it. So the thing that for her, she'll sit when they make them sit and put their hands on their knees. They sit crisscross applesauce, or I forget what they call it.
Yeah.
They sit in like their ninja pose 2 or whatever they call it.
Mm-hmm.
When they sit and make them do breaths, that's like the calmest my daughter is
Wow.
without like a TV on in front of her or without being asleep. It's like
Mm-hmm.
she likes the kicking, the punching, and the jumping and all the silly stuff, but you can tell when she's doing like the meditations that they do,
Mm-hmm.
you can tell that her state shifts and she's like peaceful. It's really neat to watch. It's almost like
Wow.
it's like a little shocking because I'm used to her being silly and bouncing off the walls, uh, and to see her just be peaceful and awake at the same time. Yeah, like this is, I feel like I'm doing the right thing here. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's
absolutely.
good. All right, so this is the Winning Wellness Podcast,
Mm.
and when you can kind of take that how in 2 different directions. One direction would be that some people they're lacking their wellness, like their top priority is to just get back to good, whether that's
Mm.
how they feel or how they look or how they perform. And then the second thing is competition. People are maybe they're competing
Mm.
against themselves, against other people, but they're striving for goals. They're trying to achieve things. When it comes to winning well or winning your wellness, what is maybe the number one thing that people aren't doing, or the most important thing that they should be doing, or what do you think is just like a really high impact item that maybe we haven't talked about?
Yeah. Outside of the moral compass stuff, I think that's really big for me and just checking my morals every day and trying to follow that. I developed kind of this mindset when I was at Niagara University that no job is too small, therefore no dream is too big. So on the day to day, if no job is too small, I'm willing to hold the door for someone behind me. I'm willing to take the extra 10 minutes out of my day to just meditate or think about my thoughts or read a couple pages of a book. I do believe doing those daily small tasks can lead to you accomplishing whatever dreams you have, no matter how big. And I think that daily balance of peace and growth is huge. So in my profession, I don't think it gets talked enough, our profession, I should say. It doesn't get talked about enough, the work-life balance. I think I see a lot of podcasts I love that talk about different training methodologies, what it's like to work in pro sports and all this stuff. But I love the fact that you have wellness in the title of this podcast and how truly important and fully encompassing wellness actually can be when it addresses home life and being on the road and your job and trying to balance the stresses of both and the beauty of both. I really think it's important to try to have daily growth, but also have daily peace. And figuring out what that is for you, it's individual. My peace comes from blaring music in my ears and lifting as much heavy weight as I possibly can. Maybe it's not so heavy compared to other people, but
It's all relative.
I'll still try to ego lift. Right. Hey, you just try to do something every day that makes me feel like I'm growing and pushing. And then I find peace, through also like reading or going on a simple walk or just talking to a friend or catching up on a podcast. I think growth and peace is huge, and trying to find those through this theory and this methodology I have of no job too small, no dream too big. I think if you're able to do your daily check-ins of figuring out these simple small tasks that might seem mundane or unimportant, especially on days when they don't feel that important or they're that big of a deal, I think if you stay true to them and consistent with them, you never know where you might end up. And I'm definitely a walking product of that and living out my dream because I was put in rooms and was very lucky to have mentors like yourself and other people that push me in the right direction, but also being willing to do the little stuff on the day to day and putting in the honest hours with things that might not seem important, but ended up being very.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, I appreciate that.
No
Appreciate that
doubt.
information. Appreciate the information and the shout out.
Yeah, no doubt. Of course.
Um, What question should I ask you, but I have not?
Ooh, well, the girlfriend one definitely, I should have known it was coming, but yeah, staying on track here. I don't know. I would say something I would like to talk about probably I would say the difference in working in different environments. So like the private sector, what was it like you worked at Exos, compared to working in the NHL to the NBA and stuff, and how is the dynamics and the culture and the relationships different and all these things, and how do you plug yourself in or not or something, I think is probably something that people would value, because I do kind of have a weird, not weird, but like a pretty wide range of different experiences already in my career that's not that old or long.
Yeah. Well, that question. Yeah, lay it on us.
Yeah, I got you. I would say for me, the main thing was just staying true to myself and being very genuine. I think being a younger coach in the college setting, as a simple example, I always wanted to be just super professional and just had to be this military-esque all the time when I was in front of the other coaches and stuff. And it worked and it was good. And I honestly probably needed that to an extent. But I noticed it was so important that I was still open and able to just build honest relationships with the athletes, even though I was only a couple years older than them at the time. They would still come to my office and talk to me about life stuff, like their girlfriend just broke up with them, or they're having trouble with this class, or they're just stressed about life or their injury. And being able to be a person, and again being genuine and not having to try to pretend to be a professional, just be yourself, be a person first, and then being able to still get the job done and have that rapport and that respect through your actions and your words towards the athletes. In the college setting, I learned a lot about attention to detail and trying to implement discipline. So I was like having them rack the weights with the logos the right way. If you weren't 15 minutes early, you were late. I was big into attention to detail. If we're doing a warm up on the baseline, you finish through the line, not to the line. And simple things like that, and then holding them accountable was big in the college setting. The NHL, I was learning on a daily basis hockey lingo that I had never even heard of before in this foreign sport and environment that I could have only dreamed of being in. And again, still staying true to just being genuine in myself and being able to plug myself into that situation and still try to add value through my inquisition and just trying to learn more and ask questions. And then now in the NBA setting of being a basketball nerd my whole life and being able to finally peel back this curtain and see what pro strength conditioning in the NBA looks like. And again, still being genuine and just admitting the fact that I get to walk in this building every day and I'm in awe and it's freaking awesome. And again, then building relationships through this genuine passion of us sharing this sport that we grew up, loving. So I think depending on the room you're in, the most important thing is always staying true and genuine to yourself and doing whatever you can to try to add value and reading the room, essentially. The private setting was really cool. We had people paying to come to us, so buy-in was kind of already there for a lot of the time. And the environment was a bit different. The relationship piece was a bit different, but I learned a lot just being around people that were motivated and had different walks of life. They were talking about their job and their kids and stuff. And I just got to ask them life questions while they're training and doing like personal training for Gen Pop clients. So I've been able to see or special needs clients and being able to take a step back and appreciating the simple things and, understanding the importance and the immense weight that just making someone else smile actually has, whether they're Special Olympics athlete or, a professional hockey player. So I think, again, whatever room you're in, just staying genuine and true to who you are and being able to plug in wherever the needs are at and just rock out from there pretty much.
I'm glad I asked you that question.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah.
Me
Yeah,
too.
you do have some people miss out on that those funky careers. But it's like they say that industry disruptors are never like they're not natives to the industry. Like if you want to change the if you remember Coach Mike Leach, the football coach Mike Leach, he was
Yeah.
he's passed now, but he was just an way outside the box thinker. He didn't really grow up playing football. He wasn't involved in it. He was in law school, like drawing. He's sitting in law school,
Mm.
like drawing like X's and O's and drawing plays. And one of his professors walks by and it's just like, "Hey, man, if you're excited about football, go do football stuff. You can do law school later on." And so that's what he
Mm.
did. He just, but yeah, it's just, it's the fact that you've worked with special needs athletes and you've sold personal training and you've been in the NHL and now you're going to the NBA. And probably most importantly, you have a black belt in Taekwondo from when you were before you could drive.
Priorities.
Um, that's right. But yeah, I mean, all that stuff, it kind of shapes you in a different way as opposed to just being like a cookie cutter, only basketball guy or only football guy. But yeah, it's just it's great for growth and for a diversity of your philosophy.
Absolutely. And coach, I will say this, when I was there interning, you did a really awesome job of bringing personality and just having the weight room be fun. Like you would obviously in the college setting, you had the time to lock in, like you said, things are organized, you're ready to go, we're getting good reps in. But I think bringing personality and making things fun and interactive and being a person first, you were one of the coaches, the first coaches I'd seen in the college setting that really brought that to life. And that's something that I love to do because I like to laugh and kind of be goofy sometimes because I can't be serious every day.
Yeah.
That's not who I am, like genuinely as a person. So I think being able to see that actually in the weight room was like, oh wow, you can really just be yourself. And as long as you have good rationale and reasoning and research behind what you're doing, there's no reason why you can't be yourself and still implement these good things. And I
Yeah.
definitely was able to see that and it kind of flipped a switch for me. So I can definitely attribute some of the stuff that you did back in the day to
Yeah.
why I do the stuff now.
Yeah. I appreciate it. It is surprising how much like sarcasm and dry humor will win people over. Like if you
Man.
like because that's all I got basically. It's just I got like dad jokes and just and dry humor and that's just how I get through the day. Um but you made me think of there's another guy we had at Linwood by the name of Rob Campbell, and he was also a Blues
Yeah.
intern, and he's kind of kicking butt. I believe he's in the NHL, maybe with the Red Wings right now.
Last time I saw Rob, he was with Red Wings.
Yeah, so but he had a saying, and I think he stole it from somebody else, I believe. But he said, I take my job seriously, but I don't take myself too seriously. Is that
Mm.
we can be the butt end of jokes, and we can be self-deprecating, and we can make it light because a lot of these kids they don't want to be the boring weightlifters. Some of them are into that.
Yeah.
Some of them they want to watch the like Ronnie Coleman videos and then come in and train like that. A
Mm.
lot of them are just there. They're there to play whatever sport, and then their coach said you have to go to the weight room at these times on these days, and then that's why they're there. So
Yeah.
you just try to appeal to the masses as opposed to your two or three really intense lifters, and they're happy, and then
Mhm.
everybody else is like
Mm.
you've lost to them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it took a little bit of time, but yeah, you kind of figure out like I'm doing I'm doing an okay job. You know, those first few pre-testing and post-testing, you're
Mm.
like, oh my gosh, okay, I've got bench press numbers. Now, if I bench press them, am I going to be able to help their bench presses go up? And the
Mm.
good news is, yeah, most of the time when you make teenagers bench press, their bench press goes up.
Man,
Um,
what?
so
Right.
so yeah, then you start to realize like, well, I can do that job and I can do that programming part even better.
Mhm.
Um, but I can also like communicate and kind of have fun with it a little bit. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
And then you mentioned liking the word wellness
Yes.
in my title here. So that's nice to hear. But that is part of the philosophy. So um I said it in the last, I'll go through different topics. So like my topic this week is on
Mm.
vitamin D.
Okay.
And so my spiel is basically this. You say, yeah, I know Michael Jordan had a flu game. You don't have to. here's why vitamin D is important. Here's what it does for your body. Here's why it's at the base of the pyramid of your performance. Like being healthy is your foundation, and all the other cool stuff you guys can accomplish is on top of it. So, yeah, I'm just prioritizing that wellness. Is that I can't personal train everybody. Like you said G has a French trainer that's come over. So I can't train one-on-one for one individual. I need to take care of everybody the best I can.
Right.
And the setting I've got here at Maryville, we've got 20 teams and we roll them through 20 teams per semester. We have more teams than that. Sometimes they're not training. We have 8 squat racks. We've got one weight room with 8 squat racks in it. We have to be, we're like, there's a few people that I read about over and over again when I was a kid. There's something about elementary school. I had these books that I would go to the library and I had already read them, but I would just check them out and read them again. And one of them was about Henry Ford.
Nice.
And you know what Henry Ford is famous for?
Chevrolet.
well, you know what he invented?
I actually don't. I was being a smartass, but I actually don't.
So he is associated with Ford Motors or whatever it is. But a lot of people think he's famous for inventing the car, the automobile. Right. That's not what he invented. He invented the moving assembly line.
No.
And so the cars would go down, and this person, they go in and they do that bolt right there, and the next person, they go there and they plug in that thing or whatever. So he invented the moving assembly line. Where I'm at now, we have to be like uber efficient in what we do. It's all about efficiency, and it's not quite the moving assembly line. But it's about taking care of as many people as we can. And if it gets too complicated, if it gets too cute, if it gets too complex, we're going to start losing people because we just the time versus the resources. So that's kind of where we're at, is that I've got to focus on wellness. That's been in my mind for years, but well before I came here to this setting. But here we are we're doing it's like triage. We're doing the best we can with what we got. And we're doing all right. We just had, we had multiple teams had their best years ever last year. And how much did the weight room impact that? I like to think it made a little bit of a difference. I'm definitely not attributing all of that to our efforts. But yeah, it seems like when you help people be well and take care of themselves, that good things happen.
Yep. Crazy concept, but it's so true. And sometimes I forget about that, man. It's so easy to get caught up in the sauce of worrying about, you have to hit this number, we have to get this done, and it's crunch time, it's stress, it's post-seat, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Underlying foundation is wellness and health. I mean, that's essentially what our job is, and just trying to help people take a step forward in that. And that's really cool that you have that perspective, Coach. I definitely admire it.
I think me and you can maybe talk a little bit more, but I think we've got some great content out here. So thank you for your time. Let's just shut her down for the listeners, and we can talk a little bit more. So
awesome. Appreciate you having me on, Coach.
Thank you for listening to the Winning Wellness Podcast. Please keep in mind that all views expressed within the show are not a reflection of any universities or organizations that I may be affiliated with. If you have any questions or suggestions for future shows, please reach out through Instagram, where I can be found with the title name of Mitch Schwartzman.